Okay guys, welcome to the channel. My name is Mike, also known as FlyFisher530. Today I'm pretty excited to be doing an installation video for a couple new products from Alucab. If you have an Alucab rooftop tent, either the version 3, 3.1 or the new 3-R, all of them have two new accessories that you can add to your rooftop tent. The first is a backrest that sits underneath your mattress and can be folded up. So that you can actually have a backrest and sit up in your tent and have something to lean back against. Really excited about that new product. And then the second product they have available for all of these tents is a drop-down table. So you can basically be leaned back against a nice kind of backrest and also have a table in front of you either to set an iPad on to watch a movie or a laptop to work on, those sorts of things. Pretty excited about these two products because they've been featuring them on Instagram and elsewhere. But I haven't really seen anybody do an installation video yet. So I want to do that today, kind of show you, how I did it, how difficult or easy it is to install, and then what I think about it at the end in terms of if it's worthwhile or not. So, all right, so stay tuned. We'll be showing you the first part of the installation process. Okay, so here's the two accessories I received from Alucab. Over here is the backrest, and here's the table that will go inside the rooftop tent. Again, these will fit in both the version 3, 3.1, and 3-R. The boxes, I have to say, arrived a little banged up with some holes in them. Actually, a parts bag was almost hanging out of one of these holes. I think everything's okay. There's a small rip in this thing here. I don't think, looking through the rip, there's anything wrong, so I'm hoping everything's okay. I'll let you know if they're not. But we're going to start with the installation of the backrest first, and then we'll do the table. So let's get going. Okay, grab this. All right, so here's an initial look at the backrest. That'll be the hinge point that connects it down to the frame of the rooftop tent. And that'll be the bracket that allows it to. Pretty neat. So it has these straps in between the frame to keep weight down. And initial look over it looks okay. It doesn't look like anything's bent or scratched. Looks in good shape. So happy with this one. Okay, we'll do the table next. Okay, so looking over the table, it looks in good shape. I don't see any major scratches, nicks, or flaws. Got two straps on the end there. Be interesting to see how this goes together in the tent, but pretty nice looking. It's obviously a piece of plywood, it looks like, but nicely finished, like an oil finish on it. Yeah, pretty nice. Okay, so these came with the Alucab backrest as well. Got some, looks like some frame pieces maybe, some parts to go with it, screws and washers and bolts. Same with this bag, some more parts. And then this piece here, which I'm not quite sure what it's for yet. We'll open it up and figure it out. Okay, so we've got these parts out of their bags. Yeah, this is marked, as I said, for the backrest, and there's a bag marked for that. And then these are definitely parts for the drop-down table. So I suppose they're a supporting arm for the table. So that's pretty neat, and they've got these straps attached to them. So that's pretty much it, I think. We've unwrapped everything. Did not appear there's any instructions in either box. It's not necessarily a big deal. I was able to download these off the internet within a couple minutes. You can go to the Alucab website. It's very easy to find these instructions for each product that you see on the website. There's a link right there to download the PDF file. So I think we're ready to get started. I'm going to start with the backrest first, and then we'll do the table. We'll go through the steps and install these items into the tent.
Okay, so step one is to install the metal bracket in here. So this is really easy to do. There's existing bolts here and here that are right next to the support piece. You'll see this vertical support piece in the tent right here. So you unscrew that first bolt there. It's existing. All you do is take the nut off. You go back here, you take that nut off. The bracket fits immediately over those, and you just reinstall the bolt. They give you a washer, and the bracket's in there very secure on the floor. It isn't going anywhere. So that's step one. You do that on both sides, you're done. Very easy to do. Step two, take this hinge point bolt for the backrest and take the nut off, and that bolt goes through the bracket, the first hole on the bracket at the front. Attach the bolt that was on here, attach the nut that was on here back on, and tighten it down. I'm not tightening it too tight. I want this to be able to rotate, so snug but not real tight is how I'm doing it. So that's step two. You do that on both sides. Step three, we're going to attach the bracket to the back side that holds up the backrest. So that'll be next. Okay, we have the first supporting bracket nut installed with the bolt behind, and now you can kind of see it's standing up on its own, which is kind of cool. So I can get the next one in over here. I'll do that next. So far, so good. Okay, one of the things I realized was I installed this in front of this bracket when I think it's supposed to go behind, looking at the instructions. So just make sure you put this plastic washer on the back side and then install it. And then the washer behind, and then the nut.
All right, so the backrest is all installed, and man, I cannot be more happy with the way this project turned out. It was so simple to install, and it just came out great. So there you go, boom. It's super easy to release, let it go back down, and then you can have it, you know, at different elevations, depending on how high you want it. And then to release, just lift all the way up, falls back down. Came out great. Super happy with it. Okay guys, well, it's day 2 on the weekend. I'm trying to do these installs in the morning because it's pretty warm in the afternoon. Today we're going to install this table inside the tent, the drop-down table. It has these 2 frame pieces that have to be connected to the table first, and then we'll install it in the tent. I'm hoping this goes as easy as the backrest did yesterday, and so we'll just get started. Okay, so after looking at the instructions, it looks pretty straightforward. It was a little confusing at first, but basically this piece will mount to the top of the rooftop tent. on the inside, and then in the drop down position it will mount right here on these 2 bolt holes right here. These straps will hold the table in place, so if the table's level, this would be the top of the rooftop tent here. So really it's just mounting these 2 bolt holes on each side. This piece here, basically once the table's folded up, this locks into the top edge of the table. So it looks pretty straightforward. We'll see how it goes on the install. Okay, so we're going to be using 2 bolts, 2 lock nuts and washers to install this bracket on, and easiest to set it off to the side here, because we need to kind of be able to get into this without the bracket being in the way. All right, drop these down. I think what I'll do is, drop these down first. Fold this down. There we go. Yep, that's the way to do it. And then put the washers and nuts on. Yep. Not tightening these super tight just yet. Might need to do some adjustment later on, so. Okay, the other side will go on the same way as the first. It's easiest to get that first bolt on with a washer, and then that'll help make it easier to get the second one on. The one that's easiest to get to. Okay, second bolt is in. Okay, so both of those are installed. Okay, so the frame is mounted to the table. Pretty easy process. You just have these 4 bolts you need to install, and then you're ready to go. The table is latched to the frame with this little latching mechanism right here that just twists to lock it in place. So what's next is to mount the frame to the top of the rooftop tent on the inside. And so there's going to be a mounting point on top, each point here, and then there's one sort of in the middle on the back side of the table here in this area on each side that we need to install. It looks like we need to use these rivets. To do that, we may have to drill out existing rivets that are in the tent for the 3.1, and so you're going to need this tool right here. Very easy to use. It's pretty self-explanatory. You're just going to pop it in. You basically crank it down until it snaps off the rivet, and you're good to go. So hopefully not too involved. They only give you 4 of these, so there's going to be 4 connection points to do. Shouldn't be too difficult, and yeah, we'll see what it looks like inside the tent.
Okay, so the step 1 will be to remove this felt piece off the top here. Oh, it's a snap or what? I think it's a snap. Oh, okay. So it's just like a Velcro sticky over this rivet. So that's what's got to be removed here, and then we're removing one down here. So that's what we need to drill out today. So I just have a drill bit with about, I don't know, 1/4 inch bit on it maybe. This should be more than enough to drill that out. Laid a tarp down. Don't freak out, this has been washed even though it looks dirty. So just putting that down to catch any drill cuttings, and we'll get these things off
ready to install the new table. There we go, that one's done. Okay, so it's abundantly clear to me that without an extra pair of hands in here, this would be nearly impossible to do this by yourself with the board attached. So I'm actually going to detach the frame from the board and just attach these pieces on first. I think the reason why they have you attach it to the board first is so that it's exactly the right distance to match up with the mounting holes down here. I'm just going to try to take careful measurements. After I mount the first one, then I'll take careful measurements from the first one over to the second one and just try to make sure we get it in the right location. And if worst case scenario would be to just drill new mounting points on the board. I'm not really worried about that. So my plan of attack right now is I'm going to disconnect the board, get these mounted on, and then try to work with the second one on distance required, and then if I need to drill out new holes for these mounting points at the bottom, that's not a big deal to me. But without an extra pair of hands in here, this is going to be a challenge. So that'll be the next step. Okay, so here's my plan. It's really important to get this frame mounted snugly against the back here. And the rivet nut, you really got to make sure it's up there tight as you're pulling it in, and there's not a lot of room for error. So trying to hold this up with the table in place, in my opinion, impossible with one person. You need at least 2 people in this tent to do this. So I'm just going to get these rivet nuts in first on both sides. I might measure a little bit on the second one before I tighten the last pop rivet all the way. Do as much as I can to make a final adjustment, but there's only so much you can do with pop rivets. Once they're tight, and you're kind of just at their mercy. So it's not like you can loosen them back up again and make an adjustment. So that's my plan of attack on this. We'll see if it works. It's there. Okay, so on my tent, it looks like it's going to be the top hole here, and then it's going to be the bottom hole here that will fit the riv nuts. So I'm going to try to install this one first, see how that goes, and hopefully it works out. So really how you do these, you're just going to put this down over the top of the rivet nut. The idea is to crank this down until you feel it'll snap off, and that's when it's tight. But it's also good to make sure you're pushing it up against the top of the tent just to make sure you're getting a nice tight fit. And yeah, that's it. So we'll give this a shot. Put this one in. You know, worst case scenario, you can always drill these back out. If you do screw it up, just make sure you have these rib nuts on hand if you need to redo something. Okay, one last check. Hole will work there. Okay. Pushing in. All right, well, my first mistake, I put this in without the this back on, so I do have to drill that back out. So that's the problem sometimes, going too fast. Okay, well, it does look like it works good though. It's on there nice and tight. I gotta go find another rib nut, and then we'll get this back on with this back up. Okay, so I got this second rivet in. That wasn't too difficult. I did have to kind of move the fabric around a little bit to get it to line up with the hole.
but that seems to be in. I've cranked this down snug but not tight just yet. Hopefully I have a little bit of wiggle room with the frame to move it around, and I can see I do a little bit. So if the table doesn't quite fit to the frame, hopefully I have a little bit of wiggle room to make it work. So we're going to work on the other side now, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so we're trying to get this last bracket in here. To match the other side, I'm going to use the same pop rivets on the bottom to match the other side, and hopefully this goes in a little easier. I'd always recommend having extra pop rivets when you do this project, and we'll see how this goes. Good if you don't put the strap in there. This we can adjust later. Okay. All right, well, that one's on there. Hopefully I can get this last one to line up. Well, guys, I've tried everything to pull this thing up. The frame is lining up with the hole, no problem. The problem right now is getting this fabric hole to line up with that hole, and it just does not want to stretch. There's only so much I can do by myself in here, even with a pair of pliers to try and grip and pull this thing to where it needs to get to, but it's just not coming. So I think what I'm just going to do is just cut the fabric. Cut the, it's in the strongest part here. Just cut it, and all right, guys, I'm just like giving up here. No matter how much I pull on this fabric, it just does not want to give. See myself cutting myself right there. Okay, so essentially widening this hole a little bit further up to the corner there to hopefully allow it to fit in there. Well, let's see if we can get this to work. All right, that little bit of extra widening did the trick. All right, that last rivet is in. Let's see if we can get these all down. So at this point, I don't really care where the table lines up. I will drill new holes if I have to. There's only so much you can do with pop rivets. And frame's in. Feels nice and solid. That's good. Now we got to see if this table's going to work out. This will be interesting. If not, we widen the holes or make new holes. It's not the end of the world.
Okay, so far, 3 of the holes are lined up pretty good. This 4th hole doesn't look so great, but kind of surprised I got that lucky, to be honest. All right, 3 of the 4 bolts and nuts are in. I got a feeling this last one's going to be a challenge. I'll be damned. Went in. Well, I don't know if I got lucky or what. All right, now that I know I got the 4 bolts in, I'm gonna go ahead and snap these off, tighten them down. That's done. All right, that's done. There we go. Nice. All right. Hopefully you guys can see that. Get that tape off. All right. Yeah, fits up in there pretty well. Let's see, put this off. Now we'll set these to the elevation. About where you want it. Is that about right? Yeah, nice. I might even trim some of that strap off, actually, the excess strap, because you won't need it, because that's going to go up like that and then come down like that. Pretty neat. Backrest is up. Table down. And yeah, I trimmed these straps just to take away the excess because they're not going to need it. But very firm. This table is awesome. And having the backrest as well is going to be really nice. Okay, so for installing the rooftop tent table, I must have went in and out of that tent at least a dozen times, looking for different tools I thought I needed to complete the project. So I have here on the table everything I needed to hopefully avoid you having to get in and out of the tent a bunch of times to get the project installed. So it starts with having a tarp or a towel to set down underneath the rivets that you're going to drill out, the old ones. Drill obviously with a drill bit. This is a 3/16 inch diameter drill bit. Fit the rivet size perfectly that Alucab supplied. Having extra rivets on hand is extremely helpful, I think. As you saw, I made my first mistake by installing a rivet without the fabric piece behind it. I had to drill out that rivet that was supplied by Alucab, and luckily I had a rivet set already on hand. I'll put a link below for you guys so you can see what I think you need if you want to have some extra rivets on hand. And Alucab, if you're watching, maybe supply a few extra rivets next time. rivet tool, obviously, to set the rivets. These are really easy to use. I'll have a link below for that as well. Some sort of pliers to grab the fabric. This ended up not really working for me, but I was trying to stretch, as you maybe saw in the video, that fabric to the last hole to make that fabric hole fit the hole in the frame. This ended up not really working, but it might for you, so good to have up in the tent. Tape measure, I didn't really use this. All the holes ended up lining up, so kudos to Alucab for that. I mean, if you just take your time and give a little bit of leeway when you're doing things, worked great for me. I didn't even use the tape measure. Obviously, you need your instructions downloaded from the Alucab website, so have those on hand. I had a razor blade for enlarging that hole in the fabric, just a tiny bit, maybe 1/4 of an inch, if that, maybe more like 1/8 of an inch. But it was enough just to stretch that fabric out to the point where I could get the rivet in. And then something I found in the instructions, which weren't quite what I found to be the case for me, I needed to install the bolts that they give you from the frame to the wood table, the metal frame to the wood table. I needed an 8mm wrench with a 3mm hex head tool. Either this style, or if you have a socket set with hex heads, it's a 3mm hex head tool with an 8mm wrench. In the instructions, they talk about a 10mm wrench, or spanner as they call it, and a 5mm hex head tool. That's not what I needed for this project. It's what was supplied for me. So just to confirm, 8mm wrench, 3mm hex head size for me, at least, with the set I was given. And then lastly, a headlamp. Even though you have a light in the tent, this is super helpful to see what you're doing. So I think that's pretty complete listing of everything I had. And so I'm really happy with it. It was definitely more challenging than the backrest, but if you take your time, it's doable. Project ended up turning out great for me. I love that table, and so kudos to Alucab for coming up with this design. I haven't seen it used or come about anywhere else. So that's what I used for installing the table. Hope this was helpful. Okay, so here's the tent with the everything that I normally have inside, and that includes sleeping bag, electric blanket, it's always in here, shoe bag, a small pillow just in case I forget my regular pillow. But what's going to be nice about that is I can pull up the backrest to one of the first locations on the rack, and have that almost like working as a pillow for me. So yeah, it's gonna be nice. So this is all the stuff I normally have in here, and now it's just a matter of making sure everything closes up like it normally does, and we'll check that out next. Yep, no difference. Closes easily. Okay, well, we got both of those projects in, and I have to say I'm super happy with both of them. The backrest was a super easy install. I think that's going to be so nice to have in the tent. And then the table as well, to be able to put an iPad or laptop up there, watch a movie or do some work. That's going to be very, very handy as well. So the table obviously was a little more difficult. I made a few errors there along the way, but hopefully this video gives you an idea of the tools I used to make it hopefully a simple project for you and avoid the little missteps I took. And yeah, I really appreciate you guys watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and hope to see you all on the trail someday.